Welcome to Nonprofit Thrive, a podcast where we learn from the humans who are helping nonprofits succeed in the digital world. Now, let's get started with the show.
Welcome to the show. I am Ben Freda. I'm the host, and in this show, we share the stories of the people behind the organizations, foundations, and companies that are helping nonprofits change the world. Past guests, past shows, we've had Matt Schwartz from Constructive, which is a social change design firm. He talked a lot about how to maximize not just like the front end of a website, but also the back end, and how sometimes it's easy to skip that over, but important to consider, and some things to consider there. We also had on the show Ryan Osmick, who is an old friend of mine, who talked about CRMs for nonprofits who are starting to use a CRM or confused about how to use one best or what the next step to take is. We talked about how sometimes just a spreadsheet is the best CRM for you. And then as you move up the chain, maybe you're moving to other solutions and what those solutions might look like. Really interesting episode. So listen to that. That was the first one. We have another great guest on today's show, a friend of mine, person I've worked with for a year. But before we get into him, I have to share that the show is sponsored by BFC Digital, where we help nonprofits thrive on the web. You probably know that, having an effective web presence couldn't really be a game changer for nonprofits. But if you're one of these nonprofiteers at an organization who's more of an accidental techie, it can be pretty confusing to know how to, fix bugs on the site. What's DNS? What are the tricks? What are the things that are going to happen? What do I have to think about? So that's what we do at BFC Digital. We help make the web easy for nonprofits. We can do everything from small bugs, maintenance, little fixes, all the way to planning, designing, and executing larger web projects. You can go to bfcdigital.com to learn more. Okay, so today I'm very, very happy to have on the show today Eric Larnick, who is Fundraising Manager at People for Animals, which is a nonprofit veterinary clinic that operates in New Jersey. I met Eric about a year ago when he joined the organization. The organization is an old client of ours. And it's been a pleasure working with him for a year. And as we've been working together, I have learned more and more of his secrets, stories, tips, tricks about fundraising, particularly, which is a interesting topic, I think, for most people in the nonprofit world, and something that I didn't really, we're really focused on the tech side. So getting to understand more about, effective fundraising tactics, what works, what doesn't, what his experiences are, I thought would be a great addition to the show. So before his history is before he joined People for Animals, he spent several years in sort of the entertainment and media sector. He worked for the Dodo.com, which we're going to get into. And then he led the fundraising efforts of an organization called the Sato Project, which is a Puerto Rico-based dog rescue and adoption group. And then after that, he left the organization and went to People for Animals. So with that, thank you so much for joining us, Eric.
Oh man, thank you, Ben. That was I'm not going to live up to the hype of that introduction. I got my work cut out for me.
It's going to be a breeze, man. You got nothing to worry about.
It's like, you're just like nonprofits that change the world. I'm like, gulp. That's a tall order for me to live up to.
Your nonprofit changes the world. I mean,
I know. No, yes, I don't want to take any of the credit for that. That I'm just a cog in the wheel, and I mean that in the good way. Like I'm just kind of helping keep the machine running.
So as you can tell. This is for the listeners, as you can tell already. Eric, very modest guy, but actually some crazy successes with fundraising. But before we get into that, I do want to ask you. I've seen the Dodo around. Yes. So how did you get into sort of that, like the animal welfare world, and was the Dodo part of that?
Yeah. So I went. I mean, it's like when I look back at, it's like I've got like over a decade of like a professional career now, which is crazy because I still feel in my head like I'm like 20 something, immature, and I'm just like, I got to do something like after college, and I still haven't like figured out my life plan, and I still feel that way in my head. But then I look back and I'm like, oh my God, I've had like long-term stays at all these several companies. So yeah, I mean, I did go to film school, and I did pursue, like a film industry, creative writing career. I did the LA
Wow.
thing for a while,
Wow.
and I freelanced and temped at all these different websites doing entertainment and media coverage. And for several years, I worked at Movie Phone, which still existed all the way into the 2000. I think it technically still exists as an app, but even as a
Uh-huh.
phone service, it existed all the way into the 2010s, into the Obama administration. It was crazy. And I was working there, and it was all part of America Online. AOL was still in existence.
What did you do for movie phone?
Kind of everything. I
Yeah.
was, writing movie reviews,
Hmm.
features, doing interviews with
Cool.
actors and filmmakers. And then through like a lot of corporate consolidation, I ended up writing entertainment features for the Huffington Post too,
Got
and it,
you.
it all just kind of became this big AOL Huffington Post. And then I think it got swallowed up into, didn't they merge with Yahoo? And then they got swallowed up
Yeah.
by Verizon,
Yep.
so it's like, it's
Hmm.
all that big thing. I was a part of it at one point.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
I had like several years of like bylines and stuff and, and
Hmm.
all that. But, like personally, like just as I got older and, kind of figured out who I was, I'm incredibly passionate about animal welfare. It's just,
Hmm.
how I feel about the world. And, my personal value system really places a lot of importance on being compassionate to animals and being respectful to nature and the environment. I think it's like, we have to take care of the earth. It's the only one we've got.
Hmm.
And I just kind of wanted to do something different in my career.
Hmm.
And I was really trying to just make the leap into animal welfare, not even really knowing like what is that? Like what
Right.
do I do? I don't know how to
Right.
like I'm not a veterinarian. I don't know how to like perform surgery on an animal. But
Yeah.
like what I just want to be a part and help. And
Yeah.
that's how I landed at the Dodo, and kind of in a really small world kind of way. It was actually it was year two. I joined right at the start of year two of the Dodo as like a startup venture.
Okay.
And just in like that small world kind of way. Like there were people who I had worked with at the Huffington Post who had,
Hmm.
gone over to the Dodo, and I didn't even like realize it, didn't even know. It wasn't like we were networking and making connections. It's just,
Yeah.
I was just hustling, looking for opportunities, and I found one. And then when I went to like meet with the people at the Dodo, we were
Yeah.
just like, oh, holy crap, we know each other.
We know all the
Yeah.
same people. For people that don't know, and I know because I just looked it up before this, and I recognize the logo as well. Can you just tell people what the Dodo is?
So the Dodo is, I mean, I guess they kind of define themselves as like an animal brand.
Hmm.
It's a brand for animal lovers. They do a lot of video and television content now. They've produced content for Animal Planet.
Hmm.
And it just kind of covers all aspects of um the animal kingdom, pet, just like pet lifestyle, pet parent lifestyle stuff, all the way
Hmm.
to like really inspirational stories of rescue and adoption,
Hmm.
incredible stories from all around the world about, different animals and the relationships that they've had with each other and
Right.
relationships they've had with humans. It's a
Right.
lot of like, really trying to empower people to just, be knowledgeable and passionate and love animals and just
Yep.
love the animal world.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really cool. That's really cool. So it's like an entertainment type thing, like
Yeah,
producing. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean,
Gotcha.
when I started, it was just still like a blog. It
Yeah.
was so
Yeah.
crazy to kind of watch it, but kind of how quickly it, ballooned into like, a full, media content
Yeah.
production machine.
Right.
And when I was there, I kind of gravitated to, I really, I felt the passion for it. So I really dove in and wanted to take on all of the really
Yeah.
like animal welfare stuff.
Gotcha.
So I was working in editorial and working in video production. And really what I did there for like 4 years was, work with all of these different animal welfare organizations all over the world. I was working with like everyone from the David Shelter Wildlife Trust, which is this
Hmm.
elephant conservation orphanage in Kenya, all the way to like,
Wow.
just like the local DIY dog rescuers across the country. And, like I
Sure.
had a chance to like get involved with just about like every field of animal welfare at that
Yeah.
job. Dogs,
Yeah.
cats, elephants, rhinos, marine
Yeah.
life, bears, rare endangered species. So
Wow.
I had a
Wow.
lot of great colleagues and peers that I worked with, all like really gung-ho and passionate, just kind of wanting to like bring animal welfare into like a mainstream entertainment
Hmm.
communication space.
Yeah,
Um,
and I guess that's what the Dodo's really done. I mean, it is entertainment. I mean, I've seen clips and stuff that they've done. I think on social.
yeah.
Yeah, you're right. There is sort of this ethos of animal protection, right? And
Yeah,
like
yeah,
respect
they've
for animals.
gone
Yeah,
crazy viral several times over, and
yeah,
they've racked up hundreds of millions of views, and I will say another thing, it's just like as it scaled and became kind of a bigger, production hub. I was also personally really proud. I helped get the Dodo organized with the Writers Guild of America, so it's like
hey,
starting to produce content for television and all of that. And, we're reaching this huge international audience, and, we really
yeah,
put in the work, and we got that team, that creative team recognized for the work they do.
that is awesome. That's really
Yeah.
cool. And how long was that period where you were working, and why did you decide to move on?
Well, so I was at the Dodo for over 4 years, like 4 years and some change.
Hmm.
And I just wanted more
Mm,
still. Like what I was so in the weeds, and I mean that in a good way, like working with like, all these different animal welfare groups. Like I got so emotionally invested in different, like we would cover specific animals, like a specific pit bull that was, you know, trying for months and months and months to find an adopter, and like
yeah,
you need to signal boost their story a lot. Or,
yeah,
if like
sure.
there's an orphaned rhino, and like you see how this rhino is rescued as like an infant and is like reared at this sanctuary, and you kind of just like
Hmm.
following individual stories of animals, and working with people at these organizations like one on one, and
Hmm.
they wear their hearts on their sleeves,
Yeah.
and I just kind of found myself like I want to be on that side.
I see. It's funny you say that. We have one of the clients we work with is called Advancing Conservation Through Empathy. So it's a program of Woodland Park Zoo, and their job is
Yeah.
to try and spread this idea that in order to encourage conservation in the general public, rather than the old way, which they think is sort of feeding data and facts about deforestation and population numbers declining and stuff, a new approach would be help humans empathize with one particular animal. So, like
Oh, for
this
sure.
particular chimp likes, I don't know, corn, but
Yeah.
hates it when his little brother smacks him on the back, like that kind of stuff. Like that will really help humans form a connection with these animals and care about saving their environment, caring about preventing them from going extinct. So, and I've noticed you talk about that kind of stuff when we're talking about people for animals, stories, right? Like
Yeah.
storytelling is a big part of that. Is that, I guess, and that's sort of where you started with that, the whole Dodo
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, definitely at the Dodo, there was, we were in constant, God, it was like boot camp in terms of like the best practice training sessions, really
Yeah.
analyzing the data,
Hmm.
like obsessively about what worked, what didn't, and how do
Hmm.
you, really just, it's true, like gaming the system, because the web is constantly evolving and changing, and
Yeah.
all of these platforms are constantly like changing their algorithm and their process. And,
Yeah.
you're always trying to like keep your head above water and rise above the
Right.
white noise of everything else.
Yeah.
So, yeah, all of those kinds of communication practices were just getting drilled into me. And, it's really kind of like, um, I think they're kind of like timeless tips, like I think
Mm-hmm.
they just kind of work on any platform, in any group. Like they're like such universal practices that you just figure out how to translate them to
Yeah.
your
So
platform.
let's get into this. So those practices. So when you were analyzing the data, what data were you looking at particularly?
I mean, it was just kind of like all aspects of the performance, like click rate, video
Mm.
views,
Mm-hmm.
for editorial content, just like retention,
Mm.
visual quality, like photography and video, like headers, headlines. I mean, this is also
Mm.
stuff going back to my time at Huffington Post, because again,
Mm.
even there, you were getting drilled about SEO practices and headline
Mm-hmm.
practices and really just,
Gotcha.
A/B testing everything. So, like
Right.
it's, so I've had, several different careers, all kind of drilling these kinds of like techniques and communication strategies. And I think, it really just kind of like goes back to what you were saying, just like find like that personal connection and hone in on it. Like find those unique details, find those things
Hmm.
that really like emphasize the specific, unique, personal element to this story
Mm-hmm.
and, just hone in on it, drill it in, and you'll just kind of like suck everyone in just emotionally, like because
Yeah.
you're finding something that's like so core and identifiable, in this case about a specific animal, about a
Mm.
chimpanzee or a
Mm.
three-legged
Mm-hmm.
dog,
Mm-hmm.
or
Mm-hmm.
a rescued pigeon living in an apartment, and you really like find out what makes them so unique and
Mm.
just amplify it. And then it's just like in
Yeah.
terms of content creation, it's just, I think it's like there's just general best practices around like good, communication,
Mm-hmm.
and
Okay.
having like a really clear voice.
Okay. Clear voice
Having
for the platform, like for the platform for the nonprofit.
yeah,
So
I
so what would you say, just to, I mean, I know I'm just taking a tangent on one side,
mhm.
but what would you say the voice of, and we got to get into what it actually is, but the
Yeah.
organization, before People for Animal, when you were at Sato Project, what was the voice, would you say, of that?
The Sato Project. It's very easy to talk about the Sato
Oh,
Project
good.
voice because so the reason I jumped from the Dodo to the Sato Project, like I said, I just wanted to be on the other side of it. And the Sato
Yeah.
Project was an organization that I had worked with at the Dodo.
Got you.
And the Sato Project is it's been around it was founded over a decade ago. I believe it's in year 13 now. It's
Okay.
founded by one woman. Her name's Chrissy Beckles. She was a great mentor, great boss, good friend. She is a firecracker. So in a previous lifetime, in her previous career, she was a boxer. She's a Golden Gloves boxer.
Okay, so you're already doing the story thing, by the way. You're telling me, really specific,
Yeah.
interesting details about this person. And now I'm thinking of this person in my mind. I see
Yes.
what you're doing. I see what you're doing, man. I
So
see your tricks. But go.
She's a Golden Glove boxer, and she's a fighter, and her husband's a stunt man, and
Hmm.
they were on set in Puerto Rico, and they were exposed firsthand to just how bad the stray dog and the stray pet, stray dog, stray
Oh.
cat epidemic is down there. It's just
Mm-hmm.
Puerto Rico is just so, unfortunately, it's just like does not have the resources it needs to, take care of its people, take care of its animals. The people want, good health care and welfare for their animals, but it's just, there's all sorts of infrastructural problems.
Yeah.
That's a whole other podcast I can get
Sure.
into.
Yeah.
But
For sure.
anyway, so Chrissy, she saw it, she couldn't ignore it, and so she just started to get hands-on first as a volunteer, just doing dog rescue, as much as she
Yeah.
could, just as one
Gotcha.
woman. And, from there, it started as a volunteer, and then she was able to turn it into a career. And then she, was able to found her own organization. And that's what the Sato Project is. And I got to give you credit, Ben, for pronouncing it correctly, because people are not sure how to pronounce Sato, but you got it right. It's
Yes.
Sato. And
Yes.
Sato is kind of the local term for like, it's a little pejorative. It's like mutt, stray, and so like the
Okay.
Sato Project is about, kind of like reclaiming that word. It's like a badge of honor for these
Sure.
dogs of Puerto Rico. There's over 500,000 stray dogs on the
What?
island. Yeah, it's
How many
crazy.
people are there?
Um,
Like more than that.
yeah, there's more than that, but like the
Okay.
island is the size of like Connecticut. So
Yeah.
like
And
if you
there's
can,
500,000 stray dogs.
yeah,
My goodness.
yeah.
Okay.
So I worked with Chrissy, because she's, so the thing about the Sato Project, that is her, like that is her lifeblood. And she approaches dog rescue like boxing, and she goes in and she takes hits, maybe not physically, but emotionally. She has to
Mm-hmm.
deal with like dogs that have gone through some really tough injuries and illnesses.
Yeah.
Sadly, not all of them can pull through, but it's all, it's just that Rocky. It's not about how many times you get hit. It's about how many times you get back up, how many times
Wow.
you get knocked down. It's
Wow.
about how many times you get back up.
Yep.
You just got to keep fighting. You just got to keep swinging. And, that is that is just her spirit overall. And that is like the spirit of the Sato Project. It's and it's grown into a real organization that, it has like a team employed,
Mm-hmm.
on both Puerto Rico and in Brooklyn, to help
Mm-hmm.
coordinate this whole machine of rescuing dogs, getting them great veterinary care, and then
Mm-hmm.
transporting them to the mainland US and finding them homes with adopters or getting them connected with
Wow.
like no-kill rescue groups all
Wow.
along the East Coast so that they can find forever homes. There is a whole there's just a whole machine going, and it's all kind of it's all built off the back of Chrissy and just her fighting spirit.
That's
And
cool.
so the voice of the Sato Project is the voice of Chrissy.
Got you.
And just she's on the ground literally. She's the one feeding the dogs. Building up their
Yep.
trust, bringing them into our program. The Sato Project has a facility in Puerto Rico where they can help the dogs recover. If there's
Mm-hmm.
pregnant dogs that they can give birth, they have like a maternity ward. So like
Wow.
she's really built up like a real. She's built up something that the people of Puerto Rico wanted, but just we're not given the means to like provide this kind of animal welfare.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
so she's really helped you know help provide that for the community. And so yeah,
Got
the
you.
voice of the Sato Project, it's
Is
just that it's her fighting spirit voice, it's her personal voice. And I think, from there, I was doing fundraising and helping with communications. And, the strategy there was just, help point Chrissy in the right direction,
got you.
kind of give her let her know when she's got the microphone and be like, all right,
Uh-huh.
tell the people what's going on.
And that's really interesting. That's really so that you felt like that was your role to like get the voice directed in the right area.
Yeah, for sure. Like, we would do things like, just be like, I would call them like the State of the Union address. Like, we just
Mm-hmm.
like tell people what's going on.
Mm.
Because man, there would always be something crazy going on, whether it was a hurricane,
Yes. Right.
or and something that like people don't even realize, like, because people know about the hurricanes that have affected Puerto Rico, but Puerto Rico is also on a fault line, and so it's also been really susceptible to earthquakes,
Oh
which
my
does
God.
not get as much coverage. Like it just gets
Gosh.
hit after damage after damage with like natural disasters,
Sure.
and then with all of the economic infrastructure problems.
Yeah.
There is always like a crisis going on, and I don't mean that in like an eye rolling, exaggerating way. Like it is crazy there, like just
Yeah.
how many hardships people have to
Right.
encounter
To
and
navigate.
overcome. Yeah, how to navigate. And you know people there, man, they love their dogs, they love their cats, they love their pets, they want the best for them, and they're
Mm-hmm.
they're just struggling to make ends meet. There are houses that uh were never repaired after Hurricane Maria, and that was in 2017, and they're still
Right.
just like they still have just blue tarps instead of roofs, and it's just like, man, that's
Yeah.
almost a decade ago, and
Yeah.
these people
Sure.
deserve better, and they just want the best for their families, and their pets are part of their families. So it's just a
Yeah.
matter of like tell just make sure people just tell people this is what's going on, so they don't forget. And it's kind of like it really is kind of a grassroots thing where um without getting too, ranty or political or anything like that, like there isn't the infrastructural support. So it really
Mm.
comes down to like a community level of like,
Right.
help your neighbors, help these people in the community. You can't count on anyone else to just do it for you. Like you have to roll up your sleeves. And if
Right.
you care, if you want to help, then roll up your sleeves, and you can make a difference. There's no such thing as like a small difference. Like any difference matters, and it's because it's coming from a place of like genuine heart. And whether it's a financial donation, whether it's volunteering a couple hours, whether it's just being like an advocate and helping raise awareness for what's going on, and
Mm-hmm.
helping spread newsletters, like that's
Mm-hmm.
all something that like is really helpful.
So yeah, this is great. And I see what you're doing. I mean, I can see you kind of at work, like I
Okay.
can see I can, no, I mean that in a really nice way. Like I can see
Well, that's
how
good.
you are sort of using the voice, telling the story.
Yeah.
Let's talk about specifics about fundraising, because
Yes. Okay.
I did promise that in the intro, and I
Yes.
don't want to, got to give the people what they want.
Oh, for
And
sure.
obviously money and getting funded, finding sources of funds is obviously important to so many of our nonprofit clients, right? Like so many of them
Yeah.
need money. And some of it comes from grants and some of it comes from donations and some of it's big donors, small donors. With your experience with Sato Project in particular, how did you raise money? What worked? What did not work? If there were any things that did not work?
I would say, so it's a small team, and I was like a one person fundraising uh unit there.
Yes.
And
Yes.
then I will say I was joined, after a couple of years, I was finally joined by a great colleague named Eden, who, after I departed from the Sato Project, she kind of inherited my role, and I tried to
Got
pass
you.
on all of my secrets to her so she could carry the baton. But before she came along, it was like a one person operation in terms of fundraising. So it was like kind of having to do everything. And, in
Mm-hmm.
terms of what didn't work, it's just kind of like I'm human. And what didn't work is, one person trying to do it all. And that's not possible. So,
Yes. Right.
the metaphor I use a lot, it's like you see on like the old talent shows when someone's doing the plate spinning routine, where they have
Yes.
all the plates on the sticks and they're
Yeah.
spinning them and they're just kind of like running back and forth to keep them
Yeah.
all spinning in motion. While
Right.
that like da 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 da
Yeah.
da 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 da, like that
Yeah.
music is playing. Um, that is what fundraising is. You're just
Got
kind of
you.
like spinning all the plates, whether it's like, individual donors who respond to your emails, whether it's a
Mm-hmm.
grant, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's just like a rich celebrity who knows who you are and you have to kind of kiss their butt and court them a
Mm-hmm.
little bit. You
Uh-huh.
got to keep all the plates spinning, and it's inevitable that a plate's going to fall and it's going to break. And
Uh-huh.
so you just got to start over and put another plate, back into the routine. But that to me is like what fundraising is. Especially
Got you.
I feel like a lot of organizations, I mean, there are like national organizations that have like teams in place. And, sometimes like
Yeah.
I've been to those buildings and I've interviewed at those places and I'm like, holy cow, like you guys have so
Yeah.
much stuff. Like, wait, you have
Right.
all this infrastructure. Like you have one person who just handles like email. And
Yeah.
that's crazy to me. I've never had that experience. I've always been like, no, I got to handle email and print and
Yeah.
social media and public relations and large donors,
Mm-hmm.
small donors, foundations, organizations, businesses. You got to manage it all. So it is a plate spinning routine. And,
Got you.
I think just like when it hasn't worked, it's just because like, yeah, you're going to try things. And maybe it's with, a demographic or a sector that you haven't had uh, the in-depth like active experience with, so you try something and maybe it doesn't click the way you wanted it to, maybe it doesn't connect with them. Um, so I
Got
would
you.
say like things that
Got you.
don't work, it was never just like, oh, it was never like an Ishtar level bomb or anything like that.
Yeah.
But
Right.
I'm dating myself with that movie reference. A Madam
Yeah.
Web. There we go. Now I'm speaking.
Yeah. Yeah.
A Madam Web
Water
level
world.
bomb. Yeah, there you
Water
go.
world
A
level bomb.
Waterworld level bomb.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nothing like that. Just kind of like, yeah, just you're human, and I bet a lot of people in like the fundraising sector are workaholics. They can't. If you're a
Yeah. Okay.
nonprofit is like a passion industry.
Oh, for sure.
So like you're in it because you're passionate about it. And when you're passionate about what you do for a living, the work-life boundary lines get a little blurry,
Oh man. Yeah.
the pressure you put on yourself for performance goals gets a little more intense.
Mm-hmm.
So all that stuff gets a little bit more blurred. You push yourself a little bit harder. So it's natural that, you're never going to be batting 1,000,
Of course.
all the
Yeah.
time.
You're going to try things that aren't going to work. Yeah. But that's
Yeah.
good. You should. So you would encourage people to experiment with like new demographics, new channels.
Yeah. So I would say, so here's what I would say. Definitely always, like strengthen your base. what I have found in all of my experiences at different organizations I've worked with is like your base is your base for a reason. Like there's, like they are your diehards. They're the people that believe in what you do. They're the people that were probably believing in what you do, what your organization does before you even join the organization.
Gotcha.
So like always take care of them, always nurture them, never take them for granted, never forget about them, kind of always continue to like, I know this is like to super serve them, as
And what
they
does that
say.
look? What does that look like in terms of super serving? What do you do specifically?
Well, then that is gets unique and different depending on what organization you are,
I
because
see. Yeah.
so like where I'm at now, People for Animals, our base, they follow People for Animals in a completely different way than the Sato Project's
Oh,
base
really? Okay.
followed Sato Project.
How's that?
So Sato Project was very digitally driven.
I see.
Did not really have like much of a print following,
Mm-hmm.
whereas a huge social media following where
Gotcha.
you put it was kind of like you have to kind of there was honestly so much activity and so much interest, and there was always so much happening on the ground in terms of dog rescue in Puerto Rico that
Mm-hmm.
you kind of needed to keep social media updated like every day. It was
Yep.
like a
Mm-hmm.
365 job. Um, just because there's always so much going on with specific individual dogs that are in our care.
Yeah.
Sometimes they have ups, they have downs in their
Yeah.
recovery, and you have to document all of that. Now with People for Animals, People for Animals has uh, has been around in New Jersey for over 40 years,
Okay.
and it does not have that big of a digital footprint. And
Right.
and that's one of the great things about working with BFC is really helping us get the digital footprint we really sorely need. And BFC is doing a fantastic job at helping shape that footprint for us.
That is
Uh,
awesome to hear.
yeah.
By the way, I really hope this I don't know when it's going to come out, but I hope this podcast episode comes out after the new site is launched. Because
Oh
not
yeah.
that, yeah, because you got, I mean, yeah, you guys are an old organization, been around for a long time. Obviously, your website was not really where you put the time and attention until you
Yeah.
got there.
I
And
know.
now that
Yeah.
you're there, this project that we're doing with you guys, which has been awesome, it's going to be so much better than what you have now.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm so excited. And the thing about People for Animals, so like People for Animals People for Animals is focused on providing like affordable, accessible veterinary care across
Yes.
New Jersey. And it's like I said, it's been around since 1980, and it's really been driven by, just like the principle that, spaying and neutering your dog or your cat, it's like Bob Barker said, it is the first step to a lifetime of good health for your pet. And
Mm-hmm.
in the way that people have these struggles with accessible and affordable healthcare, it's the same for our pets. Pets are a part of our family. We want the best health for them. And,
Mm-hmm.
People for Animals, this is going back to 1980 when this was like not a concept people were even thinking about.
Right.
People for Animals was focused on we should make veterinary care as affordable and as accessible as possible for the people
Yeah.
of New Jersey.
Right.
So it's always been very embedded in really trying to reach people directly in low income communities and working class communities. And, People for Animals, PFA, like has a tremendous impact. Just kind of like talking about like
Yeah.
2023, like what did PFA do in 2023? These aren't even the final numbers. Like we still have to like tabulate these, but like we did at least 15,000 cats were spayed or neutered at our facilities. And
That's amazing.
that's including over 5,000 homeless cats that are part
Yeah.
of like trap, neuter, return initiatives. We provided spay neuter surgeries for over 6,000 dogs. And then
Yeah.
we helped 15,000 families get wellness services like vaccines and preventatives and microchips for their pets. And this is
Mm-hmm.
all like, we're charging like $25 for a microchip.
Yeah. Right.
Like that
Whereas
we're
I
trying
tell
to do.
you, the vet near my house in Manhattan is definitely 10 times that. I mean,
Yeah.
at least like, yeah, it is not cheap
So,
usually.
with People for Animals, it's always been very embedded in these communities. And it's definitely, delivering results on the work it does. And I would say everyone, it's a great team. Everyone is they've got their head down and are so focused on just helping animals and helping these families. And I feel like when I came in, I'm like, oh, I can help kind of focus on the fundraising and the communications because they're busy doing the like life-saving work. So
Yes.
like now they have someone who can like just help be the megaphone and
Yeah.
celebrate and tout and broadcast what's actually being done. And so like
Yeah.
PFA, like so much of its like distribution channels, it's all still print. It's all still like postal mail. Like we do at the Sato Project, we would do one mailing a year, and it was a big annual report of like the year in review. With PFA, we do them 4 times a year. So, it's like every season, every quarter, it's like, what has PFA been up to in the last 3 months? So it's a completely different, communication strategy for me, thinking like, okay, I've got this one big campaign that I'm running once a year. And I think about it 11 months in advance. Like I'm always kind of brainstorming in the back of my head. At PFA, I'm like, oh, I got 8 weeks till the next one.
When you send those out every quarter, you get fundraising stuff back, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. These are huge campaigns. And that's the thing is like I think, because PFA's digital footprint has, a little bit, has to get caught up to 2024 times. Like it's kind of like, I think it's just about helping broadcast that like, man, PFA has made like, it is continuously making this huge impact. It's affecting so many families and so many animals so positively day in and day out. And there is actually this really passionate community of supporters that have been invested in it for decades. Like they've been bringing their, family pets here since the 90s, and they just still care about what we do. And it's kind of just been like flying under the radar in terms of New Jersey and animal welfare. And it's like, you know what, we just need to like shine the light on this and, tell people and broadcast it.
You do. I mean, the only thing I'll say is you guys are popular. Like, you guys are full, right? We know this from building the website and doing the appointment builder and stuff. You guys get full fast. So what happens if you spread the word more?
Well,
you're gonna have to open more clinics, dude.
I mean, I will say this, the directors, the leadership team at PFA, they're always very ambitious and they just want to help more people. So the idea of expanding, they're always on board for that as long as there's money to pay for it, which I guess is my job. I guess that's where, that's my responsibility. But I'm just kind of like, yeah, sure, whatever. Yeah. Every time. That's, the director, when she talks about like, so we have 3 clinics now. So we have a clinic and we're able to serve North, Central, and South Jersey. Now we have clinics, in all 3 sections of New Jersey. And, there's talk about when are we going to open a 4th clinic? When are we going to open a 5th clinic? And, these are big things, but there's obviously like these ambitious plans there's ambitious plans to like expand the type of veterinary coverage we can provide to dogs and cats. Like we're doing spay and neuter surgeries and we're doing vaccines and we're doing preventatives and we're doing, wellness care. And then what other care can we provide them? And then it's like, what other veterinary care can we provide to animals? There's always more we can do. So everyone always has that kind of like ambitious, like just that ambitious drive to do more. And, every time there's like some idea presented to me, I'm like, yeah, okay, sure.
Let's go for it.
Let's go for it. Like I'm not really like pondering all of the implications about a capital campaign or anything like that, but I'm just like, I feel confident because I feel like I just the indication I've gotten from, our supporter base, it's like nothing feels daunting because it's like, this is what I mean when I'm going back to like saying like strengthen your base. Cause it's like, I feel like I'm very in tune with who our base is. And so I'm like, oh, they're on board. They're super supportive. So any kind of like new, big, daunting fundraising campaign that's going to like move the organization forward, I'm like, well, I know what our base is. And I know that we have our base of supporters in our corner. So like,
Hmm.
I don't feel pessimistic. Let's go for it.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. That's cool. So you do, so how else do you feed that base? So you've got mailers that you do every quarter. What
Yeah,
else
and this
comes
is
up?
kind of like what you're saying about, trying new ways, so like I'm really trying to like broaden our digital footprint,
Yep.
and really trying to bolster, like our reach via like email communication and social
Hmm.
media and just trying to increase our presence, increase our voice. And, like the way I don't go crazy is like I'm not trying to set these benchmarks and then if I fail to hit them, like I
Yeah,
punish myself. Like
I see. Yeah.
it's kind of like because I know I'm keeping our base strengthened,
Yes.
I can like, all right, I'm going to take a risk. I'm going to
Yep.
try something new. I'm going to try this social media campaign.
Hmm.
And if the social media campaign hits, great. If it doesn't hit, okay, that's a learning lesson.
Yeah.
As I still have the base, I still have like our direct mail line. Like I'm still
Hmm.
keeping that strengthened. It's just kind of like I'm not putting my eggs in any one basket. And
Yeah.
that and I feel like that's the way to kind of find new supporters and expand and take risks.
It's almost like it's all gravy at this point. If you've
Yeah.
got that known base and you know how to deal, how to feed that base, then you're kind of finding potential areas of growth. And you got to think that, especially when you get, new branding out there and stuff, so you have a lot of space to grow on social, right? Like,
Yeah. And something just like a great anecdotal thing that like I've already been able to learn in my time at People for Animals is um, something that we are getting more increasingly involved with is humane advocacy on the state level. And that means like actually advocating with state politicians about trying to improve animal welfare laws all across all the counties of New Jersey, and so like,
gotcha.
we get involved with like coalitions, and like our director was just like speaking in front of the state Senate back in December, to rally in support of the Compassion for Community Cats bill, which
Hmm.
is also on the docket for the 2024 session. Um, and so, something we have found is this is just like great anecdotal evidence of like me trying new things out
Uh-huh.
is finding out that like, hey, like our Facebook audience is actually, they might not necessarily respond to pleas for monetary support.
Right.
Like I've tried different, not everything hits, when I make like a financial appeal over social media. But something that is like consistently strong again and again is like when we are asking for those advocacy calls to action, like,
Sure.
hey, you can actually call up your local representative. Like we even give them like here's like the copy paste statement you need to give. That's
Right.
all you need to do. Um, they rally for that. And,
Hmm.
so like it's kind of discovering like, hey, our Facebook audience, like that's actually a platform where we can actually really use to embolden all of the things we want to do for, public advocacy for humane animal laws across New Jersey. Because, maybe those people who are following us on Facebook, for whatever reasons, they might not have the means to donate financially, but what they feel like they can do is give their voice in
Yeah.
support of a law. So when we put out that call to action, I know we can put that call to action out to our Facebook followers because they
Mm,
are going to respond to it because in every instance that we've done it, they have responded big. So
that
it's
makes
like
sense.
I'm identifying like, hey, here is like a channel for us that like really can help serve,
Yeah.
this mission goal.
That's a great example. That's such a good example, and really like kind of a story that works. I mean, yeah, that's good. I wish we could keep talking forever,
Yeah.
because I feel like this is always what happens in these podcasts. Is like I'll have like sort of 12 or 15 questions of things I want to ask. I looked at the questions like the first minute. You know what I mean? I
Yeah, for
literally have
sure.
not looked at the questions since then. There's a bunch of other stuff to talk about, but we do, obviously everyone's lives go on. It Before I let you go though,
Yeah.
your pets. What's your pet situation at your house?
Okay, it's a literal animal house. So let's see. Um, you know, We don't have any dogs or cats. So, my partner and I, we were apartment livers for a very long time and, had to deal with landlords who had no pet uh,
Yep.
policies. So all of our pets were small and quiet so that we could sneak in. Like we did, like we couldn't have pets, but we still brought pets in. They just had to be like, okay, they can't like poop in the yard. They can't bark, like we had to be very quiet
Yeah,
about it.
totally.
And man, it was
Right.
crazy. Like I will even tell you, like one time our landlord had to come in to just do like an electrical inspection, and like we literally had to like take a tank of animals and put a blanket over them and hide them in the closet and be like, okay, he's not going to open the closet. And then he opened the closet and he was completely oblivious that like there was a tank of animals at his foot, and because he was looking up at the wiring and it was like, oh my god, close call.
Yeah,
But so it's
almost
like
evicted. Almost evicted.
I know. But yeah, well, we've recently upgraded. So now, like, our pets are so two aquariums full of fish, had a pair of frogs that have since passed on. Rest in peace to Biggie and Smalls. Um, my girlfriend, she's a botanist. So, we have a native plant yard and we're active birders. And we have like a
cool.
nature throughway in our backyard. So, like, our backyard is just like, to me, it is like a paradise. It's always filled with birds and critters like skunks and possums and foxes. And then our neighborhood, we have stray cats in our neighborhood. So I'm doing my best to take care of the stray cats in my neighborhood. I've built huts for them to keep them warm in the winter.
Right.
I know I see them sleep there. I give them water so they stay refreshed. I've tried to feed them and they do not want I know there are other people on our street that are feeding them, because I always try to feed them and they just like sniff, they stick their nose up at it and they go like they're chubby. They're well fed. I know they're getting fed elsewhere and they do not want I've tried a couple different things.
They don't want what you're
They don't want it. So I have it I'm just like, I'm trying. I want them to just like, I want to be their friend and I'm trying my best. And then we also have a lizard, a rescued lizard. He's 12 years old. And he's doing well. He's my best friend, my lizard. His name is Ryback, which is a very unique name, and there's a story behind that.
Before we go, tell us the story behind the name.
Okay, the 60-second story. Why is my lizard named Ryback? Okay, so when we moved in, so he was smuggled out of a pet store that was not taking care of him.
Oh wow! By who? You?
No, so it was my girlfriend's cousin's girlfriend. She worked at a pet store, and this lizard was not being taken care of, and they were just gonna chuck him. It's really horrible to say, but they were just gonna be like, and so she smuggled him out, being like, I don't know what to do. Like she just couldn't let that happen. So then we took him in, and so we took in this little baby lizard, and he had some injuries and he had some illnesses, and he wasn't doing well. And he really needed to get his strength back. And at the time, we were watching WWE, Monday Night Raw, wrestling. And at the time, 12 years ago, there was this big meathead pro wrestler named Ryback. He was just muscles on top of muscles. And his whole thing was like, he eats the competition, and his catchphrase was like, feed me more. It was just like, he has to eat. Like everything was about eating to get him like bulkier and bulkier.
And that's what you wanted for the lizard.
Yeah, he needed to like get up his strength. Like he couldn't even like really eat bugs. They would like fight back and like fight him back. So he really needed to have some he needed some big wrestler energy. He needed that like feed me more strength. He needed to bulk up. So he needed like that pro wrestler spirit, and he got it. And now he's a big chunky boy.
Nice.
He's an apex predator. He has a pro wrestler's mentality, so he earned that name.
Okay, that is a great story. Okay, cool. All right. Well, I'm sure otherwise the listeners would be like, "Come on, you have to tell us the story of this." Yeah. Listen, that was so helpful and so useful for me personally, just to learn how you do these things. Where can people find more about you and People for Animals?
Okay, well, let's see. Well, for People for Animals, our website is pfaonline.org, and BFC is helping us, with a great new website, and cannot wait to share it. It's going to be so great looking, and it's just going to be able to broadcast everything that we do for the communities of New Jersey. That's pfaonline.org. You can also find us on Facebook at facebook.com/PFANJ and Instagram.com/people4animals, all one word. I don't have much of a digital footprint anymore now that I'm not working in publishing. But I'll tell you what my Letterboxd page is, because I'm a movie lover in my spare time. So you can find me on Letterboxd at letterboxd.com/Larnock, LARNOCK. And you can find out all my weird esoteric movie watching habits and my micro reviews. I watch thousands of movies, and that's where I'm still a nerd. That's how I unwind after a day of animal welfare. I'm just like, oh, here's something from 1960 with Christopher Lee. Never saw it before. Gonna watch it.
This has been our podcast episode with movie nerd Eric Larnick.
There you go.
Anyway, thank you so much for coming, man. Really good to talk to you.
Likewise.
Thanks for listening to the Nonprofit Thrive podcast. We'll see you next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.